Hey everybody, and welcome to our second and last video for the class that was canceled on 126. This is part 2. The first part actually ended up being almost an hour. So the second part is going to probably be about 20 minutes to finish up our hour and 15-minute length class. The first video noted that there would be 3 videos because I was intending to do it in 3 parts, but it did not turn out that way. So there will in fact only be 2 videos. To find those videos, you want to go to Blackboard. And they're in AVI format. Most people can just download and view that right away, but if you have any trouble viewing AVI, you can email your TAs. Alright, so where were we when we left off? We were actually looking at the new example page. So let me click that. And remember that on that page we were able to so far embed the Trinket application that will allow us, when we get to it, to code in Python. So the next thing that I want to show you what to do and how to do is how to embed an HTML box onto your page. Now, when you do this for your assignment, you're going to go through that same process we just talked about. You're going to create a brand new page. You're going to go in here and edit the site layout so that you can put that page on the left navigation, and then you're going to edit that page. We are going to skip those steps because we talked about those in the first video, and we're just going to put the HTML box right here in this example page. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to click Edit Page, because anytime you want to make any changes to any of your Google site pages, that's your first step. So when I click on Edit for this page, of course it turns everything gray. This is my Google gadget, my Trinket box. I don't want to touch that. So I'm going to scroll down until I get underneath of it. And so here I am now underneath of that area. Let's scroll down a little bit more so we have a good view. Now what I want to put here is an HTML box. And this is going to allow me to code in HTML when we get to that, and also in JavaScript when we get to that as well. So I'm going to do this in a very similar way that I did the Trinket box, but the HTML box is its own type of gadget. So let's go to Insert. And if you look under here, under Gadgets, there's already something called an HTML box, which is nice because you don't have to go to More Gadgets and search for it. It's already listed there. I'm going to choose that. So I'm choosing HTML box. And what this does at first is it pops up a box that allows me to code in HTML and also in JavaScript. Now we're not going to do any JavaScript right now at all. We will get to that when we start talking about programming languages and how they work. But for very, very, very basic HTML and to meet the requirements of your first assignment, you're going to use the HTML open tag. And again, we're going to talk all about HTML when we get to that. So this is just a quick example so that you can create the HTML box. Everything in HTML has an open and a close tag. So the close tag looks almost exactly like the open tag, but it has a slash. This tells Google Sites and the browser, etc., that this is HTML code. Now inside of here there are many, many, many tags and attributes and styles, and there's so much. But just for now, I'm going to make this the body of my HTML, which I'm also going to close. Everything I open I'm going to close. And then inside of the body, I'm going to use a tag called P for paragraph. And I'm just going to type my name, Amy Gates. And then I'm going to close this P for paragraph up. And now if I click Save, what this is going to do is, let's just see, it's going to say, okay, here's your HTML box. I can't see what this looks like yet, though, just like with the Trinket, until I click Save. So I'm going to click Save up here, and what this will show me is the Trinket, which is still here, and if I scroll underneath of that, here's my HTML code, Amy Gates. Now this just looks like text, and that's because we've done nothing fancy with the HTML at all. We haven't done anything. So let me show you what you might want to do, and again we'll get to this. You don't have to do very much at this point. But what if you wanted to add HTML at this point or edit your HTML code? How would you do that? Well, same idea. You get started by editing the page because that's where your HTML box lives. So click Edit Page. I'm going to scroll down to the HTML box and I'm going to click it. When I click it, it opens up the option for properties, and when I click that, it opens back up my HTML code area. So now if I want to, I can edit this code. So maybe I want to put a table in. So a table is something you can do in HTML. I'm going to go ahead and put a border on that table of 2 so you can see the table. I'm going to close out the table because everything in HTML opens and closes, and we'll talk about that when we get there. And then tables start with a tag called TR for each row. And the rows all close, and again, don't let this disturb you too much because we're going to talk a lot about this. Just for now, I want to show you an example. So that's the first row. And inside the first row, my first cell is going to be, and let's just actually call this row 1, cell 1, and I'll close that out. And then I'm going to put another one in. This is going to be row 1, cell 2. Close that out. And now I'm going to add another row. So it's my second row, which I'll close out. And inside of here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this by highlighting Control-C, Control-V. But this is row 2 and row 2. Now again, this is HTML code, and we have not gotten to that yet. So what I'm showing you here is just what is possible and why we're taking the time to embed an HTML box into our site. Now if I click Save and I've done everything correctly, I can click Save up here as well, otherwise I won't be able to see what I've done. And when I do that, it'll show me the changes I've made. So I was able to create an HTML table. This is the first row, cell 1, cell 2, and the second row, cell 1 and cell 2. So that's really all you need to know for this first assignment, to just embed an HTML box and create a tiny little bit of HTML code that shows that you've created a box successfully. Once we get to HTML coding, we'll learn a little bit more about what you can do in HTML, why we use HTML, and so on and so forth. So far in these 2 videos, we focused on how to create a brand new page, how to place that page inside the left navigation area, how to edit that page, how to embed the Trinket Python interpreter application, which we will use later, and how to run your little mini print that shows that your Trinket works. We also learned how to embed an HTML box and how to write a teeny little bit of HTML code to make sure that that HTML box functions properly. So essentially at this point, you have everything that you need to get through that first assignment that is due February 2nd. There are a few more little details. We also talked about the Google Drive in the first video, and we learned that inside of Google you can create an Excel type document, and you can use the share option to get a link to that document. One of the things that I want you to notice, and I believe I have, let me see if I have an example for Excel. No, I don't have an Excel example here yet. I'll place one for you guys later just so you can look at it. I have a form example though, and I think that will do. The form is also something that I created inside of my Google Drive, and then I grabbed the link from the Google Drive, as we talked about in the first video, and I embedded the link here. So if I click Edit, I can actually see that what I did was I inserted a spreadsheet form. And that's how I got that form inside of this spot. So if I go to the bottom, I can click it and take a look at what I did here. So I actually got, this is called my student survey example. It lives in my drive. I specifically made it very tall and very wide. And if you're wondering where this all came from, and let's save that for a second so we don't lose it. If you're wondering where all this came from, if we go back to our new example page, just so that I can use a page that I can later delete, if you want to insert anything, again, you first edit the page. When you edit a page, you can click Insert. And when you do that, you'll discover that you have a lot of options. You can insert an image. You can insert a link. When you insert a link, what you're going to notice is that it just inserts the link itself. It doesn't insert the content. So one of the things I recommend is try a few of these. See what they do. Because you can always delete what you do if it wasn't exactly what you were trying to do. But if I come over here, I can insert something from my Google Drive. So I can literally insert a document from my drive. I can insert a presentation, a spreadsheet, a video, a form, and whatnot. So when you create your Excel, which is a document inside of your drive, you can choose that option, and it'll take you into your drive, and it'll say, well, do you want a document? Here are the documents that are in my drive. Do you want to insert a presentation? Do you want to insert a spreadsheet? So these are all the different spreadsheets that I have in my drive, and so on and so forth. And then you can select to do that. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and let's go ahead and save again, that you can do inside of the Google Sites. And so as you go through the first assignment, you can follow along with, again, remember these documents are going to show you most of what we talked about, and now you have a lot of it in video format as well. But also as you do this, try stuff. Because in the worst case scenario, you'll just delete it. And that's not the end of the world, right? And anytime you want to affect a page, you can choose page settings. Just be careful that you don't delete your entire site. So if you're not 100% sure that you're deleting something properly, just leave it alone and ask a TA or ask me. We can make sure, and we can even talk about this in class next time we meet up, because there's a lot of steps depending on what you want to delete and what you want to do. But for now, I would like everyone to focus on getting their website up and going. Make sure that you can find the URL to your website. So this is the main URL to my website when I click on the link that takes me right to the focus of the site. Each one of my left navigations actually has a different URL. So when you submit your assignment, you want to give the URL to your main site, and you want to make sure that the TAs are able to navigate through your site and find all of the requirements that are noted on the assignment. So that's actually enough, I think, to keep us busy. I don't want to cover too much because we were not able to meet live. So I just want to give everyone the opportunity to go ahead and get their site up, get through this first assignment, make sure that you understand a lot of these concepts, use the documents and the tutorials, and then when we meet again next Tuesday, we'll also start talking about the other side of what we're going to be looking at, like a little bit about the history of computers. Where did they come from? How did they start out? We'll talk a little bit about computer organization and architecture, like what's the CPU? How is the memory organized? What's a memory hierarchy? What's the difference between RAM and ROM and hard drives? We'll talk a little bit about networking, like what's the difference between the World Wide Web and the Internet? What's a WAN and what's a LAN? And we'll continue along those lines, building on our general understanding of where computers came from, where they are now, what they can do, what they can't do. And as we do that, we'll continue to use and apply a lot of this knowledge to our Google site and to programming and so on and so forth. So for now, be safe and enjoy the 2 videos, and I will see you all next Tuesday in class. Hopefully school will be back open by Wednesday, and many of you will be able to also attend your labs. Remember, if you had to miss a lab because of a snow day, don't worry about it. That's just one of those things. You don't have to do anything special for that. All right, thank you so much, and I will see you all in class.